Not today. Let me get the camera set up here. Adjusting this a little bit. That should be fine there. Working about like this. We'll try that. Alrighty, we'll give it a few minutes. If you're in the room, if you come in the room, if you wanna just say something in the chat, that would be great. Just to let me know that somebody's here. If nobody gets here, we'll go ahead and get started in a moment, because people will watch this online and whatnot. So yeah, been a long day, y'all. I am not really in the mood to paint, but that's okay. We will knock it out. This is not going to be a terribly long one. Hopefully none of these are super long. The idea is to keep them relatively short so that you don't feel like it's going to be forever between them. We'll talk a little bit about what you need for today. So you need the figure we did last lesson, right? So you should just have a coat of something relatively dark on here. We're going to be using pretty opaque layers, so it doesn't really matter what this specific color is. A lot of people went red-brown. I said that would be good, and that would be. Some people went a little closer to gray, a little closer to whatever. It's really not a problem. Just make sure that it's relatively dark so that if we miss some sort of crevice or something, then it's already covered. We don't have to worry about if there's a patch of white showing through somewhere, it's gonna set off like a freaking beacon, right? So, but if there's a patch of something slightly dark, it's really not going to be too noticeable. Okay, so yeah, I think it's better like that. So yeah, so we're gonna do this. You're gonna want makeup brushes. Today we're gonna be using relatively large ones. This is a Elf eye crease brush. Eye crease brush. Yep, there we go. These are stupid cheap. They are $2, I think, something like that. If you treat them decent, you don't even have to treat them well. If you treat them decent, they actually last quite a while. They clean really well in rubbing alcohol. So something like this, which is apparently approximately the value of gold right now in the United States with coronavirus. That and toilet paper. They clean fairly well with that. If you don't have that, you can just clean them in water. And then if you really want to get them out and keep them a while, you can go ahead and use some sort of brush soap with them as well. I use Gentastics Drunken Brush Goop. I like it a lot. I saw another painter who uses a Jo Sonja brush soap that I'm kind of tempted to try. I saw what they were doing with it. It made a lot of sense to me what they were doing. I keep knocking this camera. Whew, that's gonna be a problem. Okay, for today's colors, I believe the only thing we're gonna be using is our clear purple, bronze shadow, bronze skin, bronze highlight, and linen white. Okay. So this, 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 and this is clear purple. Alrighty. Those should be the only things we need today. And then you're gonna want some paper towels out. It's very rare for you not to need some sort of paper towels while painting. You should be making sure that your brush isn't flooded, other thing like that. We might use, this is a number 8 craft brush. We might use that. I'm not sure. Today is really going to be about kind of roughing in the skin, getting the volumes kind of roughly defined. If you're a meticulous paint everything with a 000 brush and it takes you 20 hours to paint a standard 28 millimeter figure to a tabletop level, this is going to feel freaking insane to you. Just so we're clear, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Like, I don't understand. But you'll get the hang. So this is all about just kind of roughing it in. getting the idea of where the lights and shadows are going to be. So this will be step 1 on the skin, and then the next session we're going to take and we're just going to refine that. Then we're going to add some colors into the shadows, we're going to make the blends a little smoother, we're going to increase the contrast a little bit. But to start off with, we want to not worry a whole lot about the details and worry more about making sure we've got darks and lights in the right place. I usually really only do this particular super fast method that you're going to see on kind of the main body of a figure. To some degree on everything, but really what you're going to see here where it's fast and furious is if you've got a big section of skin, if you've got a big section of reptilian skin or armor or something, if you got a big section of one main thing where like this guy is like 90% skin, like he's just like skin after skin after skin, then we don't really want, like, it would physically hurt me, y'all, to spend like 20 hours painting this skin. Like, no, we can't do that. Nope. Okay. And of course you're going to need some water. This is just water back here. It's nothing fancy. And then I'm going to use my wet palette here, but really you don't really need to. If you've got a dry palette, you can. But probably I would probably recommend a wet palette. We're going to make sure, just go ahead and make sure that everything's really nice, good and shaken. It is important to shake your paints. If you don't shake your paints and they are not properly mixed up, like I can't tell you how many people I have seen have problems because effectively they're trying to lay down what's almost just medium. Okay, I'm gonna pull you guys over here and show you one of my favorite things. This over here, this guy right here, this is a vortex mixer. This is used off of eBay. Let me see if I can get a little more light. There we go. This is used off of eBay, and when you press this bar, it spins like that. It's got a little cup in there. It's used in labs to mix test tubes and other things like that. It works really nice for paint. And some people are like, wow, that's ridiculous. Can't you just shake it up? You can totally shake it up until you've had a bottle of some random metallic paint that just won't do anything. Specifically for me, it was Vallejo Gunmetal Air, I think. Like the thing was like a solid clump. I tried everything under the sun, could not get it shaken. Like 10 seconds in this and it was smooth as butter. It's crazy. So if you've got a little bit of extra money in your hobby budget, totally recommend picking up a vortex mixer. I'm going to put some links to them in the document for this. Yeah, this one, like I said, is used off of eBay. I got it for like $30 used. It was a steal of a deal. They listed it as having some sort of defect. It doesn't have a defect in any way that bothered me. So what I do is I put that down there, I hold it kind of loosely, and then rest my hand on there, and trying to do this at an angle where you guys can see it. There we go. And that's totally shaken then. Okay, these have all been shaken ahead of time, so I don't really need to do that very much. So that was largely just to show you that. Is it a luxury? Absolutely. Can you shake your stuff by hand? Absolutely. But they're really nice to have. And you can see it doesn't really require me to change my workflow. Like I don't have to strap anything in. I can just take this bottle, go over and set it there. And like I'm doing it right now, and then I'm done, and I can do another one and go and go and go. It's much quicker than reciprocating saws or the little one you strap in and that kind of stuff like that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to lay everything out on my palette here because we're going to be a little bit fast and furious. So the idea behind this today, guys, is that we are going to use a big brush and just kind of sketch in our shadows here. We're going to go fairly thick on the paint. We're going to do only as many coats as we need to do. We're probably going to need more bronze skin, I would guess, the shadow color, because that's going to be a lot of it. Same for the base color. We'll probably need a little more. The purple, we're just going to add in the real deep shadows. By the time we're done, it won't be in there a whole lot. But we're going to do that to create some visual interest. We'll be using it a lot more next week. So you see, and then, linen white. We're going to use a lot more colors next week. We're going to add a lot more visual interest to the skin next week. But for this week, we're just focusing on trying to get our darks and lights together. You know what? We're going to go ahead and tone this purple down because I'm not going to want straight purple. So we're just going to create that kind of mix. I think that was 1 or 2 drops of purple and then 3 drops of that. And you can see, look, that just makes a real dark skin tone there. Real. Now, if we look at why purple, well, we got a pretty orangey skin tone, right? So we're sitting there. So we're sitting here, somewhere around here, right? So we don't want to go all the way over here into greens and blues and stuff like that. We don't want to go all the way because it'll just make it gray. We want to keep a little bit of this warmth. So the further we come back this way, more it's going to neutralize it but not kill it. So if we do a purple, we still get to keep some of the warmth here, but we get to kill some of it because it's got a little bit of blue in it. Okay. Oh, one last thing before we actually get going. Some people have made note that they're having trouble getting their figures to stick with blue tack. The other option that I highly recommend is this stuff. This stuff. I use this stuff all the time to mount miniatures on. It's Gorilla tape. It's fairly thick like this, right? And you can see that you can tear a strip off, put it on his foot. He ain't going nowhere if you stick this stuff. I think a roll is $5. It'll last you many, many miniatures. You only need a little tiny strip on an average miniature. And like this guy's on there. He's on there with one of those. I mean, he ain't going nowhere. I can bang this. He ain't moving a bit. Okay, same with these guys. I could have used that. Yeah, so feel free to this stuff is really good. I like this. It comes off a lot easier. I used to use this stuff, but it tends to, if it sits too long, it tends to be more difficult to get off. This stuff comes off really cleanly. Once you're done with it and you apply just a little bit of force and a twisting motion, it just comes right off, and then whichever side it's left on just peels right off. It's super easy. I really like it. It's kind of my favorite way to mount miniatures right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to imagine our light source on this guy. So if we want to, we're going to imagine our light source coming. I wonder if this will work. Let's see. We got a UV flashlight. Yeah. So see where he's all highlighted and bright? That's where we want the brightest spots to be. Those super bright highlights, those are going to be the brightest. Okay, this is a UV light. I've never done this with UV light, but it's surprisingly effective. Okay, because it really shows those highlights well, doesn't it, guys? Interesting. Okay, so you can always take a picture when you highlight it like this. Okay, and you can get a sense of where you're supposed to do it. Man, that's really effective. Huh. Okay, so but overall, what we need to know is that we're gonna have most of our highlights here, right? We're going to catch some down here. We're going to catch just a little bit over here, some up here, and a little bit here, but mostly here, some here, and here, right? Okay, so that's where we want to make sure is brightest. The rest of it's going to be a lot darker, but you know, there's going to be a little on the foot. So we're thinking directional light here, right? We don't want just we don't want only top-down light. That's kind of boring on a figure like this, okay? Let's create some visual interest. Let's do top-down, okay? I gotta get better lighting for you guys, I think. All right, so we're gonna start dark with our purple here. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of stab at this, okay? And we're just gonna lay this into our darkest areas. It's gonna look splotchy to start off with. That's okay, okay? As we progress further and further, it's going to get better and better. Okay. Remember, we don't really care about details at this point. We're just trying to get the dark parts dark, the light parts light, in an overall way that, yeah, that's what I was afraid of. I'm not going to have enough of that, am I? That's okay. In a way that will make our life easier once we go to refine things, okay? I'm just mixing up a little bit more of that. And probably, I might even need more. I always forget how big this guy is. Okay, he's gonna take a couple of coats, and remember, careful is not the name of the game here right now. As we move to bigger and brighter coats, we'll get more and more careful to some degree. But the name of the game right now is speed and volumes. When we talk about volumes, what we mean is the parts that are dark and light that kind of create the depth that we need. So it's going to have to be under here. We're going to go ahead and at least do some of his face here. Look, see, I'm doing that with a big brush. That's totally fine, guys. Man, I've got to get lighting sorted out. You guys deserve better lights. If I make it brighter, I wonder? Too bright? Yeah, too bright. Okay. We're going to go ahead. We could put a few more of this down, but it's not really going to matter too much. We're just trying to tone this kind of overall. We're going to go ahead and move here in a moment to our other shadow. Like I said, we're just kind of sketching it in here. Just get the dark parts dark. Somebody out there who's a really meticulous painter is probably losing their minds right now. All right. So at this point, there we go. At this point, we have kind of, the dark part's dark, the light part's light. Okay. There we go. I think that's better. Let me fix. Just trying to get him both lit and where you can see him and I can see him and everybody can see him. Alright. It's a little harder for me to work from this position, but we're gonna do it. Alright, so I just took some of this is just my this color, just the bronze shadow, and we're gonna make sure there's not too much on the brush. I'm just getting a little off the brush. And then we're gonna go back over almost everything we did, because that last stage was really about toning our shadows a little bit, making sure that where we went was mostly where we want to go. We want to go a little further up. It's not a big deal right now. If you're not getting solid coats, that's fine too. We're gonna take care of that. We're just trying to overall tone the guy. If you're used to some kind of layering, this probably looks fairly insane because it's not quite layering. Not super far off from layering. Oh. Alright. If you get some in the highlight, not a big deal at all. In fact, sometimes we're going to want to make sure we get some down in the crevices, and that's going to necessitate getting some. The highlights are, and that's fine, because we'll be coming back over those anyways with the highlight color. Okay, so make sure if he's got some sort of crevice, we get something down in there. Like I said, this is not super important to get on real smooth right now. This is about sketching it in so that we understand the figure more, okay? Surprised nobody's on right now. I wonder if something's going well. That makes me worry. That's okay. Okay. I don't usually paint the bottom of the feet. I'm not really going to worry too much about that. Okay. Okay. Okay, now we're going to move to our midtone. And what we want to do here is just, we're going to make sure we cover almost everything with this midtone. Okay. Well, sorry, everything's probably not the right word, but there should be virtually none of your base tone by this. We don't want to cover all of the darks. Okay, so I'm just using this to kind of blend out some of this parts right here. He's just going to be down here. All we're doing is we're just catching all the parts that are going to be a little bit lighter than we've been dealing with. If you go back over and you hit some of your parts that are too dark, that's not a problem. This is, a lot of times, this is a somewhat back and forth process. But you can see it's super fast. Okay, it's looking rough right now, but that's okay. You got to trust me that it looks better by the time we're done. Because if you'll notice, what we don't have is a whole lot of actual brush strokes. Plus, we haven't invested a whole lot of time so far. Okay. What we are going to need to do here shortly, though, is start to let this guy dry. We've been playing with him when he's still mostly wet, which is not too bad because we're getting a lot of kind of accidental wet blending, which is nice. Okay. All we're doing here is just catch it. We're not dry brushing. There's a fair amount of brush paint on the brush, but as it runs out, we're starting to a little bit. Okay, but what we need to do now is let this guy dry. Okay, let me see if I can get a better picture. Okay, he's looking really rough, but that's okay. Because like I said, we've just been sketching in the portions of the dark and the light. That's totally fine. Why is he so jacked up? My lights are just... Y'all, I'm getting new lights by next week, I swear. You're bugging the tar out of me. Okay. So we're just gonna give him a moment to dry. Okay. All we've been doing, I think he's just about dry. Okay. All we've been doing is just working on getting some of these parts kind of sketched in. Okay. You should absolutely not be worrying about details right now. Okay. Just working on lights and darks here. Like, if you don't have one of your biggest brushes out right now, yes, you are doing it wrong. I like using the makeup brush for this a lot. At this point, you should start making sure that a lot of your green or your base coat is going away. Like, there should... See, I'm largely... Oh, sorry. My color temperature gets shifted? I feel like my color... No? Alright. Really, we should be seeing a lot of our undercoat color go away by this time. Okay. Still looking rough. That's okay. It's like that's the best position for the light, but it's also the position that literally blocks my view of the thing. We're gonna do a little more with the base coat here. This is just the skin tone. The majority of your figure should be mid-tone. Like you should not have a figure where it's like all highlights and all shadows. Okay, that will not look right. Okay, you need the majority of your figure to be midtones. All right, we're getting real close here on the midtone. Okay. Okay. Just coming through. If you've got any of these deep crevices that are still a little black, like down in there, there's still a little bit of my darker color. And that's okay. There we go. That's a little better, I guess. As I've been, yeah, I like that better. Okay. Trying to figure out. Try that. Okay. So yeah, so you can see we've still got shadows here. We've got a lot of midtones, okay. If you feel like you've lost some of your shadows, that's fine. Go ahead and just add them back in. Like, I feel like I've lost some down here, down here, down here. You can do that whenever you want, okay. Work it back and forth, okay. Use a big brush at this point. If you've got these little crevices down there, oh, see that? This is what I'm talking about. That's pretty dark. Don't worry about that. We're going to get that kind of stuff on the next stage. That's in the refinement stage, okay? That's not in the volume stage. Because you know what? It's dark right now. What do we want it? We want it dark. Okay. All right, so at this point now, we're going to take our lighter color here, our first highlight. And this is where you want to be a little more selective now. It's a lot closer to dry brush. I'm not quite getting it to the point of dry brush, but I'm over here and I'm taking and wiping it a lot off. And then this is where you want a pretty light touch here. This is going to feel really stark, and that's okay. We need it to be fairly stark at this point. Okay. All we're trying to do is just map out where his light parts are. If you remember where the light was hitting, okay. We're going to catch a few places just for dramatic effect. We're going to go ahead and just okay. 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 All right, now what we're going to do, we're going to come back in with our base tone, and we're going to go over that a little bit to soften that out just a little bit. Okay. We could have done a half of that, but sometimes it's nice just to see how stark it is. And then we're just going to kind of come around the edges here. We're just going to soften that out because we weren't going to get the same kind of thing going over such a dark color with our mid-tone and all that. Okay, so you can see we're starting to even out now. See, we're starting to, all I'm doing is I'm going around the edges and just stabbing it lightly. Okay. Not really covering everything. This is a very sketch style right now, and that's okay. This is what we're looking for on this piece right now. This especially works on a piece like this where, no, he's an ogre. He's not really super clean, okay? So you can see we have definite highlights. All right, we're going to come back in. We're going to mix a little bit more of our highlight. I don't know if we're going to go to ivory this time or not. We'll see. Okay, we got just a little bit more of our highlight in here. We're coming back in. The touch is real light here, guys, and we're just rubbing a little bit of paint off. Okay. We're just trying to envision where his light is. I'm going to clean the face up just a little bit here. But again, we're not really worried about the face. The face is a whole other thing. We're just trying to leave it at least somewhat. Okay. So we've been able to identify the details. Okay. We're going to take our brightest highlight, mix that back in. We've got a lot of old paint in the brush. Notice I haven't rinsed this brush at all. That is kind of what we want right now because we're mixing a lot in the brush. And then we're just going to stab these highlights one last time. They should be a little more muted now too. Nope. Come back in and get a little bit more. All we're doing here is just creating the volume. So see, now we can see everything. It's not super smooth. That's okay. When we do stuff next week, it'll smooth out. We'll add a lot of color. This week was relatively short. This is where we're going to end it for this week. This is what you should have at the end of this week, is just your highlights, your shadows. You can work any of this stuff up more if you want. Just add some more on there. As you play with it, you'll start to get a feel for it. Since we've got a lot of other colors in the brush, it'll start to blend better and better. Just make sure you don't blend all of your contrast away. You should definitely have different darks and lights. If you feel like it's too stark, that's fine to lessen a little bit, okay? But too stark is better for the next step than too monotone. If you leave this all as just, I'm going to try a little bit of linen white. I mixed a little bit of linen white, and I'm just feeling like it needs a little more highlight. Just going real gentle here. We're just kind of lightly. If you're too monotone going into the next step, we're going to lose some contrast. And if you don't have any contrast to begin with, then you're really going to get in trouble. Too stark is better than not stark enough here. Yeah, I like that. I'm good with that. Okay. Remember, we're adding highlights this way, right here, right here, right here, some up here. Not very much on the feet and stuff, a little bit, but not much. Okay. So notice all we have done is this brush entirely. And you know what? If this was tabletop, that's not too bad. You could throw a little bit of wash on this real quick, and it would actually look pretty daggum good for tabletop if you were selective with your wash. I wouldn't be upset with that at all on the table. For this, just feel like you can kind of use your brush to kind of blend some things out if you feel like they're too much. Okay. Yeah, I would be totally happy with this at a tabletop level with a little bit of wash, with a little bit of care. So you should still have darks. You should have lots of mid-tone still. Most of this area is mid-tone. Along here is mid-tone. Back here's midtone. We're going to be adding some midtones back in because he looks really light colored. But that's okay. If we didn't go bright enough, we could go brighter even yet. Because we're gonna tone him pretty far down next time. But notice it's real light touches. My hand is way back here on the brush, okay? I'm not holding it up like this for here. I'm holding it way back here to encourage me just to do a real light touch, okay? Okay. Because next time what's going to happen is we're going to start glazing in some midtones. We're going to glaze in some colors, and we're going to smooth a lot of this the heck out. Get rid of any of the spots that maybe aren't fully painted and whatnot. Any of the gray. You should have not a lot of black left or dark colors left or whatever. But it's okay to have some. And then we'll start adding life into this. But this is not bad for, I don't know, what was that, 30 minutes worth of actual work and me talking. And then we're done. That's it. That's all she wrote. All right. Nobody joined. All right. That's cool. So I know a lot of people will watch these afterwards anyways. So thanks a lot.